Yes, man, we're back in the building. You know, the vibes and the ties all ready today, man. Listen, spoken about, Haaland. We've spoken about Harry Kane. Today, we're going to talk about Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe, man, I think so far this season, listen, we know all about Kylian Mbappe. We know what the type of player that he is and stuff like that. But this season, he seems like he said when he saw that Ballon d'Or get past to his French teammate, that's probably his boy and all of that kind of stuff, former teammate as well at PSG. When he saw that, he said, yeah, yeah, yeah. And obviously, he probably knew anyway that he ain't got no chance in hell at winning the Ballon d'Or in 2025. Obviously, Real Madrid having such a poor year last season, his first season at, Real Madrid under Carlo Ancelotti, now obviously under Xabi Alonso, but just the team weren't really playing that well, didn't win anything, didn't really do anything. Barcelona obviously sweeping the trophies and all of that kind of stuff. And he had a calm season himself, do you know what I mean, in terms of his own performances. But yeah, I think it as an overall, yeah, it was quite obvious that he weren't going to win it. But you know, he probably looked at that and said, "Nah, that's not happening next year. Next year, obviously, we've got the World Cup as well. So he's probably thinking, listen, if I can do a clean sweep every trophy, that Ballon d'Or is mine. There's no Lamine Yamal, and I think it might actually be between those two anyway. It's to me anyway. It's looking like that, in terms of that Ballon d'Or race and all of that kind of stuff. I just feel there's like an energy in the air, and I'm kind of happy that it's now Barca, Real Madrid again, like when we had with Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Like I like that. I do like that. Obviously, I like every now and again when you do see players, like Usman Dembele, of course, winning because he deserves it. Genuinely deserves it. He was probably the better player. You could have picked potentially other players, and make sure you guys head on over to my video where I spoke about Dembele winning the Ballon d'Or. But in general, I was like, yeah, no, you know what? It's one of those, in it. Like it's not that deep. I think he was the rightful winner, and as I said, yeah, he just really thoroughly deserved it. And I don't think it's that big of a problem that he won it, as opposed to if Lamine Yamal had won it, or if Rafinha or Salah or Vitinha, who came third, if all of these players had won it, I think it just would have been a little bit too controversial, and there would have been a question mark over all of them. Whereas Dembele, there is zero question mark, regardless of how you view the player, whether you actually view the player as he is the best player in the world. Obviously, he's not. But if you don't view him that way, it doesn't really matter, because you're just basing it purely on what the award should be, which is who had the best individual season by any standard, and then you kind of take it from there. So yeah, man. But like I said, it's going to be interesting, and I know Mbappe is definitely looking at that and thinking, yeah, man. Like this year, if I can hit it hard, if I can really get the goals in, help Madrid to win something, especially, I think you need that. Like I know everybody says, oh, individual. Unfortunately, the Ballon d'Or is an individual award given for a team sport. So the reality is you're gonna need the team to do well in order for you to be able to be given the individual award. It's a bit like getting the top goal scorer award. The reality is not all your goals are going to be, yeah, you just solo run it. If that is the case, then fairs. Do you know what I mean? If you scored 35 goals in the league and all of them were literally you solo ran everything, fair enough. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But that's never happened ever, that I've ever seen in the history of football, where someone scored 35 solo goals in a season, and that's why they've won, this award, and yada yada yada. Usually, you are going to be assisted by someone. Someone needs to put it on the plate for you in some way, shape, or form. Someone needs to win a penalty, a free kick, whatever it might be. You're going to need somebody else. So when it comes to these kind of things, it's like the two go hand in hand. So I've always said, you can't give a Ballon d'Or winner to someone who hasn't won anything. To me, that don't make sense. Then I'm like, well, you don't deserve to win it, regardless of how good you did. You don't really deserve it. Then it then comes down to how many do you win, how many trophies do you win in a season, what trophies are they? Like that's where you can then start looking at it in that kind of aspect. But yeah, like I said, Dembele 100% deserved it and stuff like that. But let's get back to Kylian Mbappe, man. Listen, this guy, since the dawn of time, since he broke through at Monaco, he's just been scoring goals. He's just this electric player, bro. Like, and when I think about someone like someone like him, I always think to myself, like, what type of, like, what kind of a player are you? Like, are you, how can I put it? Like, are you just a forward? Are you a striker? Are you a winger? Are you? Like, I'll be so real. I just look at Mbappe as like he is a complete forward player. So obviously, you saw my thing about Harry Kane being a complete striker, because obviously what he can do, he can drop deep, hit into pockets, he can pass, he can hold up play, he can run it back, he can do all of that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't say I'm confident Harry Kane playing out on the left or playing out on the right kind of thing. Whereas Mbappe, I can say that he could do that. You can see with his heat map anyway, and that's just from this season. But even when you look at here, this is, and I honestly I couldn't be bothered to go all the way back because, like I said, he scored so many goals, it's ridiculous. But this is a few seasons ago, 43 games, 41 goals, 10 assists. Do you know what I mean? You can see the kind of areas in that kind of top left of your screen in terms of the areas. That left-hand side, that is his favorite side of the pitch. It's very obvious kind of thing. Although I do think that in order for him to maybe take his game to the next level, I actually think he should maybe start moving a bit more central, but that's a conversation, for another day. The 23-24 season, look, 48 games, 44 goals again, 10 assists, the same as that. And then obviously his first season at Real Madrid, getting 44 goals in 59 games. And people said that this was a bad season. This is the maddest thing about Mbappe is that his standards are 44 goals, 44 goals, 41 goals. He's 40 minimum. He's someone I look at and think, nah, you get 40 minimum regardless. Like even in a bad year, like Haaland, I don't know if Haaland has always hit 40. I feel like he's had seasons where maybe one or two, it might only be one or two, where he's got less than 40. Maybe not. I could be completely wrong and just absolutely fabricating that, to be fair. So apologies if I am. But I feel like he's had a season where he hasn't hit that 40 kind of thing. And if he has, maybe just has. But I always feel like with Mbappe, 40 is always a minimum for him. He's looking at them kind of, Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo numbers. He's trying to get to them kind of heights, where it's like, yeah, I need to be hitting these kind of numbers because if I do hit these kind of numbers, then obviously we know exactly what's going to kind of happen, hopefully, for my team. And listen, this season, again, started like a house on fire, 7 games, 9 goals, 1 assist. Like, he's on smoke. And I've said this before in terms of the way that Real Madrid play and how Real Madrid are as a team, right? Said it 100 times. I don't look at Real Madrid and think, oh yeah, they're playing great football or they look solid or anything like that, right? But when I think of Real Madrid, I do sit there and some of me does it reminds me of they're so much like Liverpool. That's literally the way I always say it. Liverpool and Real Madrid are so similar. They're not playing great football. They're really not, but they got good players. Yeah, I mean Liverpool got obviously Isak, they got Ekatike, Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Alisson. Real Madrid obviously got Kylian Mbappe, you got Jude Bellingham, Vinicius, you got Arda Güler. Midfield, he obviously got Valverde, Tchouameni, Camavinga. Like they got ballers, right? But both teams got good players, right? Real Madrid probably have a bit more, but they both got good players and a good team. They're not really playing good football though. If you've watched them, and I've watched both Real Madrid and Liverpool this season, they're so similar. That might be the formula for this season in order to get them both to win. In terms of them winning the bigger trophies. I think it's going to be interesting when the two play each other because of their style of plays and because of the fact that both teams are not really performing that well, but they're getting the job done. And they're getting the job done to a degree where it's like, at this point now, you're just like, it is what it is with them. Obviously, Xabi Alonso a bit different because he just came this season. Arne Slot's obviously this is going to be his second season, but now with a few different players, it's almost like being in a first season, so to speak. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see first and foremost. But yeah, when we're talking about Kylian Mbappe, in terms of him as a player, I mean, 40 games in La Liga, 42 GA. Like honestly, man, this guy he's a phenom, bro. Like honestly, he's genuinely a phenom. He's definitely someone I look at and think to myself, you've got all the tools. There's something about you in general, right? I don't know what it is, but you've got all of the tools in order for you to be this like top Ballon d'Or winning player. And maybe it's because we've been watching you since you made your debut at Monaco. Obviously, we saw the games against Monaco versus Manchester City, doing well in those games, and then you get your move to PSG. Then it's everything that kind of comes with that, winning the World Cup at such a young age, and everything came so quickly. In his first, like, would we say 3 years of professional football or at the top level anyway, like everything was kind of coming to him, winning this, winning that, being voted in Ballon d'Ors. It's a bit like Lamine Yamal, really and truly, like everything coming so quickly. So I'm just like, is it one of those where when we see wonder kids, right? And listen, Dembele just won his first Ballon d'Or, right? And who would have thought he would have won a Ballon d'Or anyway? When we look at these wonder kids, people like Kylian Mbappe, who is a wonder kid, when you look at them, sometimes I think we forget. Remember, we've been watching him for so long that this is probably the natural time for this player to be at whatever, like this level, as an example, right? But because you've been watching them since they were 16, 17 years of age, I think Mbappe is about 26. You've been watching him for a minute. Yeah, I mean that's a good 10 years roughly that we've been roughly watching someone like Kylian Mbappe. You know what I mean? 16, 17 season. I think that was the year, Monica. I could potentially be wrong, but I feel like it was that year. Falcao, Bernardo Silva, Fabinho, Bakayoko, like all of them, man. Do you know what I mean? So when I'm thinking about it, this probably is a natural development for someone of his ilk. And let's be real, most of these players, even in that 10-year span, wouldn't even have won a World Cup in that time. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it's very rare, like you'd even have a World Cup to your name, Ballon d'Ors and or Ballon d'Or nominees, you know, and all that kind of stuff to your name. It probably would be from this point onwards, where you're like, boom, yeah, look at him now. I remember when he was a wonder kid, whereas Mbappe is always seemingly in the limelight, and that's obviously because he's just a fantastic player, man. Honestly, he's such a baller. I was looking at this like style of play and stuff. And like I said before, we know if you've watched Mbappe for like 2 years, do you know what I mean? I think you already know. He often plays as a striker. His greatness as a striker stems from a rare combination of exceptional speed, clinical finishing, and unparalleled technique. His ability to exploit defensive lines with explosive burst of acceleration makes him a constant threat in behind. Mbappe's knack for scoring crucial goals in high stake matches further solidifies his status as one of the most outstanding strikers in contemporary football. Now, listen, like I said, when we're talking about someone like Kylian Mbappe, right, in terms of his style of playing, it described it there anyway for you. But this is Kylian Mbappe. His pace, by the way, honestly, it's frightening because he can move the ball so quickly in most situations that it can kind of throw you off. And also, if you're talking about a foot race, forget about it. This is obviously him for PSG, but just this is he loves this kind of off that left hand side. That was obviously his main kind of play when he was at PSG. That explosiveness that he had. Like I don't know how else to explain, but it literally is that explosiveness that he has got. It's terrifying. Like it really is terrifying. And he's a clean finisher when he wants to be. There were moments last season I felt, yo, you need to pattern up your finishing, but to me, he's a clean finisher. He really is. Power shots, he can curl them in, bicycle kick, you know what I mean? You know, all of that kind of stuff. He loves this finish where he gives the goalkeeper the eyes all the time. You think he's going into that corner, into let's say the goalkeeper's left hand side in this game, but he goes into that post there, and more time the keeper can't really save it, or if they try to save it, it's by the time you've seen it, it's a bit long. He's a player like again. I love these strikers who run on the blind side. You don't want Kylian Mbappe running on the blind side. You can have it with an Isak, you can have it with a Kane, so to speak, right? But Haaland, Mbappe, long day. You're not catching them. No one's catching them. I don't care who it is. You're not catching them. Did you get what I'm saying? Young Virgil maybe, but Virgil today, I don't know if he's catching these guys. Do you get what I'm saying? It might be a little bit tricky. Might be a little bit tricky, man. And he's got really good movement. And I think it's like I said, man. Obviously, being now at Real Madrid, and I'm looking at it from like a Real Madrid kind of lens, right? And obviously, there's two parts to that. So there's obviously the part when he was with Carlo Ancelotti, and obviously now he's with what's his name, Xabi Alonso, right? And I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, Xabi Alonso, he's got Madrid in general trying to press. Like he's got Madrid doing stuff that we never looked at Madrid and thought they would do. So this is obviously the game against Marseille, man-to-man marking, pressing from the front. Mbappe's doing that. And then, of course, in these kind of situations, because of the way that they've drawn the opposite Marseille at the time, because of the way that they've drawn them into those kind of areas, they've got enough space for that. Whoever's the number 10 in this game, I can't remember who it was, he can then drop in, pick up the ball. Mbappe's already ready to run. And like I said, you don't want Mbappe to run. You really don't. But look, this is mostly what I'm talking about in that press. They're now press. I'm not saying it's the best of presses. I wouldn't sit there and say that, but they're doing it though. And we always spoke about Real Madrid never being a team who wanted to actually go out there and do that. Now they're doing it. Mbappe specifically is doing so. He's making sure that he is working. And I think he's spoken about that as well. And listen, I think someone like an Alonso, and again, this is just the beginning. We don't know how this ends. I know he's going to score goals, whether that's to the, you know what I mean, whether that's under Alonso's tactics or he just because he's so good, he's going to score goals regardless. But I think, again, these are little things that maybe can take his game to a whole new level, in my personal opinion. You know, I just these little kind of things, little things. And as I said, look, he's still on that left hand side, kind of doing his thing from that left hand side. But hopefully, he can start moving a bit more central. I just think it's difficult because in the middle, right? Like when you're plotted into the middle, nothing's really going on. It's kind of just, yeah, the game's almost passing you by at times. You want to go out and pick up the ball, and you know, Mbappe is a player who wants to always pick up the ball, always wants to be involved and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about maybe as he gets older, maybe if his pace starts to slowly, because we'll notice his pace going. Like we see it with everyone. I've seen it with Salah. I've seen it with Mane, like Aubameyang. Like there's just a season where bang, everyone just notices. It always comes, and it's so funny because it always happens at periods like no one. It's like you forgot that this person was quick, but you're not surprised that they've obviously dropped in a bit of pace and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's just what's going to happen with Kylian Mbappe. Obviously, like I said, it might not happen now, it might not happen anytime soon, but I think that might be something that he might use in order to elevate his game to a kind of different level where he could potentially be scoring even more goals. Yeah, do you get what I'm trying to say? So listen, man, if he wants that Ballon d'Or, he knows what he needs to do, man. Keep scoring the goals, regardless from which position he's in. Keep scoring the goals, keep doing your thing, and I think he'll be well on his way, to winning that award. But the question I guess I want to ask you guys: is Mbappe the most complete forward? So obviously we've got the most complete striker in Harry Kane. We've got the best striker in Erling Haaland. But do you think Mbappe is the most complete forward? Play left, he's played off the right, can play through the middle. Do you get what I'm saying? He can do a couple of the roles there. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And it's like obviously we know off the left and through the middle is probably where off the left definitely, but he can obviously play really well through the middle. But is he the most complete forward out there in world football? And is he one of the best players in world football? Let me know your thoughts, man, in the comment section, people, and I'll catch you guys real soon. Peace.